Okay, we're going to look at quadratic factorisation. First of all, looking at this expression here, you can tell it's a quadratic because it's got the x squared term there, and it's got an x term here, and it's got a term at the end that doesn't have a letter on it, just a number on its own. Remember, when we are factorising, we're basically trying to find factors, but the method used always follows the same basic method for this type of B grade question, where there is not a coefficient of x. Basically that means there's not a number in front of x. When there's a number in front of x, or whatever letter it is, it becomes a lot harder. So let's see what we do. We always start, well, I always start by writing in some empty brackets. Remember that factorisation is the opposite of expanding, and you should know how to expand double brackets. So now we're doing the opposite. We're putting this back into the brackets. So remember, that position there would usually multiply by this position here to give that x squared. So they will both have to be x, because x times x is x squared. So I'm going to write x in there and there. So we've got x times x. Now we need to know what number goes there and there. There's always going to be a number. And the two numbers, the rule is that they multiply together. These two numbers multiply together to give the last part. So we need them to multiply to give 6 and add together to give 5. So what I'll always do is I'll start by thinking of numbers that multiply to get 6. You could think 1 and 6, so 1 times 6 is 6, so 1 and 6 might work. But when you add them, 1 and 6, you get 7, not 5. So it can't be 1 and 6. So then you try 2 and 3. 2 times 3 is 6, that's good. And of course 2 plus 3 is 5, so that's it. Add two numbers, both positive, because we've got to make a positive 6 by multiplying and a positive 5 by adding. So the two numbers have to be positive 2 and positive 3, and it doesn't matter which bracket they go in. So I'm going to put the 2 there and the plus 3 there, and that's it, that's done, it's factorised. And if you were to multiply this back out again, you would get that. So next question, slightly different, same basic principle. We've got a minus at the end though, we've got a negative 6, so I'm going to make my empty brackets. This time we've got a y squared at the front, so I'm going to put a y here and a y there. Again, two numbers are going to go here and here. They have to multiply to give minus 6 and add to give 5. So again, I'm going to think of two numbers that multiply together to give minus 6. This time I'm thinking, well, when they multiply, because there's going to be a minus, it means that one number has to be positive and one number has to be negative. So, first of all, I think 2 and 3 again. We tried 2 and 3 before, and that worked. Remember, one of them has to be negative. So if I was to try minus 2, I'm just going to write this down here, minus 2 and 3. If you add those together, does it give you 5? Well, minus 2 plus 3 is 1, doesn't give you 5. If that was a positive 2 and it was a negative 3, 2 added to minus 3 is minus 1, so that's not the same. So let's try the other combination of numbers that multiply to give 6. That would be 6 and 1. Let's make one of them negative. Let's make that one negative and that one positive. Minus 6 times by 1 is minus 6, so that works. When we add them together, minus 6 plus 1 is minus 5. We want a plus 5, so that means that doesn't work. So it's got to be a positive 6 and a negative 1. So positive 6 and negative 1 multiply to give minus 6. Add them together, 6 added to minus 1, which is the same as 6 minus 1, is 5. So that works. So our two numbers are a positive 6, so I'll put plus 6, and a negative 1, so I put negative 1. And again, that and that, they could be in either bracket, it doesn't matter, as long as the negative is with 1 and the positive is with 6. Last one. This one's a little bit easier than B. I think B is probably the hardest one. Next one, we've got z squared minus 7z plus 10. So again, empty brackets. This time the letter that multiplies is a z, so we're going z times z gives z squared. Now we need two numbers that multiply to give 10 and add together to give minus 7. Now, when the two numbers multiply together, they give a positive 10. That tells us that the two numbers have got to be either both positive or both negative. When you add two positive numbers together, you'll always get a positive answer. So this one's a negative 7. This tells us that the two numbers that we multiply to get 10 have both got to be negative, because when we add them together we get a negative 7. So think of two numbers that multiply to give 10. So for example, 2 times 5. 2 times 5 is 10, that's good. But 2 plus 5 is 7. We want negative 7. So the two numbers, 2 and 5, have both got to be negative. So minus 2 times by minus 5 gives us 10. And minus 2 added to minus 5 gives us the minus 7. And that is your basic B grade quadratic factorisation.